All right, 32. Write an equation for the line described. Give your answers in slope-intercept form. And we've been given 2 points. We've been given the point 5, -5 and the point 0, -8. And using this information, we now have to write an equation for this particular line, a line that goes through these 2 points. And you may recall that we need 2 pieces of information in order to write an equation for a line. We need a slope and we need a point. Well, we already have a point, don't we? We have 5, -5 and 0, -8. So in fact, we have 2 points. All right, so we've got at least a point. But do we have a slope? Not yet, right? So let's go ahead and find the slope then between these 2 points by using the slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And when I'm using ordered pairs, I like to label my points so I stay organized. So we can let this be x1, which means this will be y1. We can let this be x2 and this be y2. Of course, if we wanted to, we could have let this 0, -8 have been our first point, meaning this would be x1, y1, and that would mean this would be x2, y2. It doesn't matter, you'll end up at the same slope. All right, so let's go ahead and take this information now and plug it in. So we're going to say y2, or -8, minus y1, well, y1 is -5, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is 5. Let's go ahead and simplify our numerator and denominator. So we have -8 minus -5. Well, if we distribute that negative through, we're going to end up with -8 plus 5, which is -3, over 0 minus 5 is -5. And we know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we can go ahead and get rid of the negative signs. And so our slope is positive 3 over 5. All right, so now we have a slope and we have a point. Let's go ahead and write the equation for this particular line. Now, normally what we would have to do is use the point-slope formula. And of course, we could do that here if we wanted to, except let's make our lives a little easier. And if you notice, this particular point, 0, -8, is in fact the y-intercept, is a y-intercept because the x from the point is 0, right? So we could save ourselves some time. We know that y equals mx plus b is the standard form, slope-intercept form, rather, where m is our slope and b is the y-intercept. So 0, and then b, whatever b happens to be. Well, do we have a slope? Yeah, we sure do. We have our m equals 3 over 5. We just found that. And do we have b? Do we have the y-intercept? Yeah, we do, don't we? 0, -8. So, if they want our final answer in slope-intercept form, let's make our lives easy and go right to slope-intercept form by saying y equals m, so 3 over 5, x plus b. Well, what is b? B is -8, isn't it? So we can go ahead then and say, not minus b, minus 8. And there we have our final answer in slope-intercept form. The equation of this line is y equals 3 over 5x minus 8. Now, if you don't want to go directly to slope-intercept form, perhaps maybe you didn't notice that this was the y-intercept, we can go ahead and back up a little bit and we can use the point-slope form and we'll get to the same answer. So you'll remember that the point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, and y1 and x1 will simply be the x and y from one of your 2 points, and then m will be the slope, which is what we just found. So let's go ahead and see if we end up with the same answer using the point-slope form. So we'll say y minus y1, well, let's do -8, equals m, So 3 over 5 times quantity x minus x1, x minus x1, so x minus 0. All right. Well, here, let's clean this up a little bit. We know if we distribute this negative through, we'll have y plus 8 equals, and we can distribute this through. So 3 over 5 times x is 3 over 5x. 3 over 5 times negative 0. Well, anything times 0 is just 0, so that goes away. And if we want our final answer in slope-intercept form, let's go ahead and subtract 8 from both sides, and we end up with y equals 3 over 5x minus 8. So notice that we get to the same answer regardless. But if you're doing a test, it's important, of course, to make sure that every second counts. And if you can save yourself, 30 seconds here, a minute there, pretty soon that starts to add up to real time. So if you can go right from the slope, take your y-intercept, plug it right into the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, then you've saved yourself some time. But again, if you don't recognize that as being the y-intercept, notice that we get to the same answer regardless. Now, we could have gone through the point-slope form using this point, 5, negative 5, and we would have wound up at the same answer. I'm not going to go through the whole process, but your equation would have looked like y minus y1, so negative 5, equals m, again, 3 over 5, times quantity x minus x1, x minus x1, and you would have worked this out, and you would have eventually wound up at y equals 3 over 5x minus 8. So whichever method you like, whatever formula you want to use, whether you want to use the point-slope formula or go right to slope-intercept, it's up to you. Because we're describing the same line, this is one line that these 2 points are intersected by, we can use any method or use either point, and we still arrive at the same equation because this is the same line no matter what.